2014 of the Richmond Community Schools Board of School Trustees. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we are ready to have our statement of our vision, please.
Certainly. Richmond Community Schools, a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you, Susie. And now our mission statement.
Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Thank you, Kelly. Now we're ready for our showcase video.
Our showcase video tonight recognizes an individual as well as a program. I think it speaks for itself. We'll begin with that and then recognize the individual.
Pleasure to nominate Rita Slifer as Teacher of the Month for November based upon the work that she does with the Read 180 program at Test Intermediate School. Read 180 is a program that's designed to perform an intervention with students who are reading below grade level. And as we know, reading is critical to not just school success, but life success. So catching those students at any point that we can, but particularly by 7th and 8th grade, and helping them to raise their reading scores to get up to grade level is a critical intervention that we have at Richmond Community Schools.
Read 180 is a program that is made by Scholastic, and it is to help improve the reading comprehension of students who are not reading at grade level. And it is based on what's called a Lexile. Students have to take a test, which is really based on vocabulary, and gives me an idea of the reading level that the students are at. And so we look at students, when I bring students into this classroom, I'm looking to see how many years behind they might be, and I'm looking around 2 years, 3 years below.
She makes a huge impact for us. She serves on our school improvement team. So she comes in with great ideas. She comes in with great ideas on improving reading throughout the curriculum, throughout all of our disciplines here at Test.
For my 7th graders, they are in here actually for 2 periods every day. And most kids at first, when they realize they're going to be in here 2 periods, are like, oh my gosh, how am I going to stand it, to be in here 2 whole periods? But every day when class is over, they'll say, oh my gosh, it's time to go. Where did the time go? It seems to go so fast. And it's because the students are never in one place. They're not sitting at their desk 2 entire periods. They get to be moving around. They enjoy telling you when they have successes on the computers. And if I'm up here working with a group of students in the workbook, students will get up and say, Mrs. Slifer, I just passed another zone, and they get up and they get to put a sticker on the wall. If they pass a book quiz, Mrs. Slifer, I got a 90%, I got 100%, and they get excited with their successes, and because sometimes these might be the students that hide in the shadows and are afraid to say something because they might be wrong, but in a smaller group setting, I consider this classroom a community because they are in here 2 periods a day, and most of them the entire year. We know each other really well by the end of the year. I enjoy that maybe more than they even do, because it's just so good to see the look on their face when they know they've mastered something.
As REA president, as I've shared with the board before, I get the pleasure of nominating teachers, and when this month rolled around, it just like the others, it really wasn't a difficult challenge because as a classroom teacher, one of the first questions I ask my students is, who in here likes to read? And hardly a hand goes up. Who in here likes, social studies? Hardly a hand goes up. The correlation between the two is obvious to all of you at the table, but once we get past that, I don't really like to read thing, when they realize that history is a story, it becomes a lot more interesting to them. As a classroom teacher, what Rita does, what anyone who works as a reading interventionist does, makes a world of difference for me. So it was easy for me to nominate Rita because of the work that she does with the Read 180 program and the success she has there and the impact that she has on her students' lives. So Rita, would you please come up? And as a classroom teacher, although I'm not at test, I'm a dentist bulldog. I do have to say thank you for all the work you do with our students.
Kelly, thank you, and I really appreciate your nominating me.
It's my honor.
I'm honored. I don't necessarily, I don't go for the accolades, but I'm very passionate about what I do. And it's a good feeling to know that the work that I do has not gone unnoticed. And so for that, I thank you, Kelly. And thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rita. And wow, I would think any student would like being in your classroom. It seems as though it's the place to be. And so we do appreciate all of the work that you do to help our children with their reading comprehension and to become lifelong readers, hopefully. Anybody else have any comments?
Well, I have to have one comment.
Nice.
I noticed the
Be nice.
third bookcase from the left, the second shelf down, that book was pulled out a quarter of an inch.
An organized learning environment is very important.
So true. It definitely is. Every morning I come in and I straighten up, and it's
That
part
is
of-
very important.
I'm proud to have a clean, organized room.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know.
Now, wait a minute.
Yeah, because
I don't want to talk to you.
I would just like to add that Rita has volunteered for additional training in the Read 180 program, and she's really assumed a leadership role in helping other teachers across the district learn their program as well, and I do appreciate
And that's
that.
been a joy. I've enjoyed sharing what I know since I think one of the original left of the Read 180 team that started about 7 years ago, and so I've helped out some of the other ones as they've taken over, and they're at Dennis and a high school, so I do enjoy that.
That was going to be one of my questions. Since you've begun, have there been changes in Read 180 that would be significant as you look back?
Not in as far as like scholastics. They have changed the book slightly, but just made some what they felt improvements to the way it was set up. Any other improvements have been maybe that I've brought personally, because over time I've been able to make it part of me or make me part of it. I don't. The first year I pretty much just followed the book and did what the book said because it was new to me, and I was learning as I was using the curriculum. Over time I find other resources that I can fit in with the curriculum and bring in other articles, other videos, different kinds of projects that to reinforce the themes of the different workshops that we go through. And the kids really do seem to have a good time. I think a big part of it is because it's a small group. The class is not to have more than 15. And I think these students a lot of times feel a lot more confident in this classroom because it is smaller, and then we work in smaller groups than that. And sometimes we can get some really fantastic conversations and discussions going, and higher level thinking where I think maybe they might be a little nervous to do that in other classrooms. So I'm the one who feels lucky.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
you.
Rita.
You're welcome.
And congratulations.
Thanks.
Our next item is recognition and celebration of 5 years that the Boys and Girls Club has been at Fairview Elementary. Our principal from Fairview, Jennifer O'Brien, is here tonight. I'd like to ask her to come forward. I think she has an introduction to make and maybe to talk a little bit about the program and what it's doing and where it's been at Fairview.
Hey, in the month of October, we just celebrated our 5th anniversary for Boys and Girls Club at Fairview. And with me this evening, I have a former Fairview student and current Fairview Club Director, John York. So, John, if you'll come forward, please. And we just wanted to take the opportunity this evening just to have John share with you how we've evolved over the last 5 years.
Thank you, Jennifer. Like Jennifer said, I was a Fairview student. I grew up in the Fairview neighborhood, spent most of my childhood there. I was also a Boys and Girls Club member from 6 to 18, so the job at Fairview was kind of tailor-fit for me. I feel like I've been there for just over 2 years. I started in November of 2012. So I've witnessed the growth firsthand for the past 2 years, but over the past 5 years, I brought some numbers to demonstrate that growth. The first school year there in 2009-2010, there was about 120 members, and they averaged 60 kids per day. And it was almost exclusively Fairview students. Now, membership and average daily attendance gradually grew, and last school year was the first year that we had over 100 members per day on average. A little bit more current numbers. Today, we have over 250 members at the Fairview unit, and our average daily attendance for November is 173. This includes members from Fairview, Westview, Crestdale, and Charles Elementaries. We have intermediate school students from Dennis, Test, and Hibbard. We also have high school students and students that are in the CYS program at Baxter. And now, Fairview Elementary students are only 58% of our total membership. With that number of kids, we have a large staff. We have 11 staff at Fairview. 2 of those staff are Fairview teachers that we have a 21st Century Community Learning Center grant that pays for them to be tutors, one-on-one tutors for our children. We also have 2 high school students that are staff as well. This is one of our many programs that we have at the club, and one focused on our teens. They get a job at the club helping an adult, like in the gym. And then they also have bi-weekly trainings where they get skills to help them with their current job, and also things like resume building, how to create that resume, how to interview tips, things of that nature. Another program for the teens is our Keystone Club. They are 14 to 18-year-olds. It's a leadership club that has 4 focus areas. Those are academic success, career preparation, community service, and teen outreach. And recently, our Keystone Club just completed a grant for Youth as Resources to secure some money to help clean up Lions Park on the west side in the Fairview neighborhood. Also, this year at Fairview, along with the teen outreach, we've also had a special focus on Latino outreach. We have partnered with Amigos to have 2 programs at our club. Corazon Latino is for 5th to 12th graders. They come in, celebrate both cultures, their Latino culture and also the culture here in Richmond. And also their Super Siblings Bilingual Readers. This program focuses on maintaining their fluency in Spanish along with the English. And also these are high school students that are reading, or teenagers in 8th grade. And that also, to the younger siblings or to the younger Latino members, that it is important to remain fluent in Spanish, and also introduces a foreign language to our members who only speak English. We also have some education programs. One of our education programs is called Indiana Kids. It is a state-funded program that focuses on homework help and career readiness. It's for children, students in the 1st through 8th grade. This past year, members take a pre-test and a post-test. There was a 40% improvement in math and a 47% improvement in reading. Now, these are lower than years past because our pre-test scores keep getting higher and higher, which I think that's a good problem. Also, we have many prevention programs. One of those is Smart Moves, is a drug and alcohol prevention program. We have Positive Action, which is a program that focuses on goal setting and self-improvement. We also have two programs called Passport to Manhood and Smart Girls, which focuses on boys and girls respectively in their adolescent years and the changes that come along with growing up. In all these programs, those are just some of our programs, but with all those programs, we always want to know what the kids think. So each year we have a survey, and in this March, the highest three categories that the kids scored us in were sense of belonging, physical safety, and fun. And we scored up 10% above the state average in all three of those.
Wow.
John and I are also very fortunate that we work very well together, but our staffs also work very well together. So we have, Fairview during the day, and then, of course, Fairview after school. But all of the activities that we do, literacy nights, school carnival, those are a joint effort. And so the Boys and Girls Club participates. Tomorrow night they have a Thanksgiving dinner, and the Fairview staff will also help with that event as well. In addition to the two paid tutors, all of the teachers volunteer their time. The homework room is really busy right after school because everyone wants to get their homework finished so they can go have snack and have fun. So we do rely on the teachers at Fairview to help just with that extra homework help. So that's been a big hit as well. And we really have become a model across the state for Boys and Girls Club units within a school. And a lot of times we'll get visits from other clubs that are trying to make improvements or maybe thinking about starting a club at a school. So that's been very positive as well. So we wanted to thank you for your support and just to remind you that we're open every evening till 6:30 if you ever want to drop by and visit.
Thank you. Wow. Lots of programs.
I want to add, because Jennifer's not going to say this, but when this actually was an outgrowth of the Safe Schools Healthy Students grant, and I see Bruce Staggy back there when he originally came up with there was a lot of data that went into it. They did a complete research of where their kids were coming from and where they lived and how many were going to Central and how many were going to Jeffers Unit, and I know that was one of his suggestions is going to the West Side, and Jennifer didn't even hesitate when this offer was made to her about Boys and Girls Club coming there. And she said, we will make it work, and she was very excited. And so I want to thank her for her leadership in making this possible.
Bruce, we don't want to leave you out. Would you like to say a few words? We so value your the partnership that we have with Boys and Girls Club.
Well, I really didn't plan on anything. I just wanted to grade John to see how he was doing. John didn't tell you. Can you share that publicly? John's doing a wonderful job. He was, one thing he did tell you, one year he was an award winner for us. He was named the Youth of the Year as a club member when he was with us. He's got a bright future in Boys and Girls Club. There's no doubt about that. The only thing I will add is kind of piggyback on what Misty said. What's really been wonderful for us, for all of us, not me, but all of us, is the warm embrace that the school district and certainly the principal, Jennifer, and her staff have given the club. It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes there's friction that happens and it doesn't feel as good as it could, but it feels great. It feels absolutely great at Fairview. So just thank you to all of you for your support.
Thank you. Susie?
I just wanted to compliment your program on the piece, the Reading Buddy piece. I just finished reading an article about the importance of literacy in a person's native language in order for them to learn a second language. And so the fact that you're doing that bilingually like that is a huge support to those students as they learn English. Thank you. That's great.
I think one of the things that makes it really great to live in Richmond is how much we partner with other groups, organizations, and things like John and Jennifer working with Amigos and the school district and all these things. They just really, we kind of use the phrase, working together works, and I think this is one of the best examples of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a question for Jennifer, too. Jennifer, remind us what grade your school is? A. Oh, it's an A. Thank you. Now, what, yeah, let's give, tell us what role the Boys and Girls Club might play in the fact that Fairview is an A school.
Will you come?
You're going to have to come up now.
Yes.
Well, as you know, Fairview has not always been an A. And I do thank Boys and Girls Club for their support, and I think they have played a big part in that. You know, at one time, we received funding, and we had some supplemental services, which was tutoring after school. And when that went away, Boys and Girls Club stepped in and helped fill that void, but even at a greater capacity, because the minute the bell rings to go home, the kids walk down the hall and they immediately start their next phase, which may be the homework room, it may be tutoring, but it really truly is an extension to their school day. And that's, you know, the communication between the two groups is key, because if we have a student that needs extra intervention or tutoring, that's communicated, and again, it's an extension to their school day.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
One of the reasons I wanted her to talk about this to the board is that if you recall our last meeting, we talked about the complexity index.
Mm-hmm.
It's our complexity dollars that pay for that program. And wouldn't it be great if we could have similar programs at least two other schools that could use that kind of extra support and extension beyond the school day? With the complexity dollars that we're talking about and some of the issues, that could be at jeopardy. Just wanted to connect that for you.
Okay, thank you very much. We are ready for public commentary. Do we have anyone wishing to speak this evening? I think we might.
I think we do.
Hi, my name's Lyra Davis.
I'm Lauren. I'm Lauren Pitcher.
And I'm Jalen Christian, and we're here to talk about our RHS cheerleading fundraiser that we're trying to accomplish this year.
Basically, our fundraiser is where each one of the cheerleaders went in and painted a ceramic bowl. And we had them glazed. And we'll be selling them at our Soup and Bowl night, December 13th, for the 6 p.m. before the basketball game. Each bowl is $10, and then each ticket is $10, which includes your choice of soup, a drink, bread, and a dessert. Our main point for this fundraiser is to bring spirit and get back involved in the school, because our school is like lacking the spirit right now. So we're trying to get more involved.
Yeah, we're just trying to get gather the community and just get support from just everybody else out there.
Now, didn't I read where you were having a special work time to paint these bowls?
Yeah, we took a Saturday, I believe it was last weekend, from 10 to 12, where the community and just family members and everybody could just come in and paint the bowls, and it turned out a great experience. We had a lot of people come.
Great.
Yeah.
And I bet the bowls look really awesome.
Yeah,
all
they turned
unique.
out great. There's all kinds of different designs on the bowls, and
And so now you just need to get rid of them.
yeah.
Well, it's the perfect weather outside for a soup dinner, so. What's
So-
the date again?
Yeah.
December 13th.
December
from 4 to 6.
December 13th. And where is it going to be held?
Tiernan Center.
Tiernan Center.
The cafeteria.
In the cafeteria,
In the
sorry.
cafeteria. And so can tickets be purchased ahead of time, or do you just buy them when you get there?
Yes, each ticket can be purchased from a cheerleader, Mrs. Griffin, or the athletic director. the athletic office for Mrs. Parks.
Okay, and let's not forget Mrs. Griffin, okay? You want to introduce her to us?
This is Mrs. Griffin. Lately, most people know our coach before has quit in the middle of the season, and she took on the challenge of dealing with us and has stepped up and became our coach.
Well, she's still smiling, so.
And we're glad to have her.
Yes.
I mean, this is so creative and clever. So $10 on December 13th.
Yes.
And you can eat and go home with a bowl. Is that correct?
Right.
A unique bowl.
But the fundraiser is for what now?
RHS cheerleading.
It's for the cheerleading.
They can also enjoy the basketball game after the dinner. It'll start at 6.
Okay. All right. Well, lots of luck to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
for
thank
your
you,
support.
Mrs. Griffin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are ready for consent items.
All right, our consent items.
I have a comment.
Pardon me? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted, as part of the public commentary, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the board for, I wasn't able to attend the board meeting last week because we were in discussion while you were meeting, but I just wanted to thank the board for the vote on the new master contract, and on behalf of the members of REA for the compensation that they receive as a result of that vote. So thank you very much. And Dr. Borf, that was our last round of bargaining as you head elsewhere. So
appears that
if
way.
we'd have known, we'd have extended it a little longer. But thank you very much. It's been our pleasure to work with you and be across the table from you all these years. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
That's
miss
okay.
you there.
That's okay.
Now we can go to consent items.
Okay, our items tonight include the approval of minutes, recommendation by Human Resources, and there is an addendum with that recommendation as posted to the web. Recommendation from Accounts Payable, recommendation to file reports, which would be the monthly financial report, and an approval for athletic winter-spring overnight field trips. I recommend the above for approval.
Okay. I need a motion.
So moved.
A motion made by Jeff Slifer and seconded by Kelly Baumgardner. Comments or questions?
I'm just very sad for RCS to see the addendum. Mrs. Stewart and I have known each other for a long time and seem to have traveled similar paths, so we'll miss you as a HR person.
Thank you.
But wish you well in your next chapter.
Well, I probably won't travel the path of running for the school.
You never know. You may decide
You're
that's something
right.
you'd like
You
to
never
do.
know.
Never say never.
You've probably enjoyed enough school board meetings by now.
For 20 years, I've enjoyed them.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yes.
And for clarification, this is not effective until the end of the school year, correct?
Correct.
Just get rid of the alarm clock pretty
June
soon.
30th, that's right.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
No dancing until June.
Reports, discussion topics.
Our first report tonight is a quick update on where we are in review of our transportation plan. And to discuss this with you would be our finance person and our operations person, both directors, Karen Scalf and Rob Tidrow.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and get it started here. Then I'm going to turn over some of the details over to Mrs. Scalf. But our transportation department has one primary mission, and that is to transport safely over 3,000 students every day to and from school, and they do that very well. And It's a well-oiled machine out there, and our kids are safe and sound. But we thought we wanted to open up some conversation here about our transportation department and include some preliminary data. On this first sheet, I'm going to outline some of the things that are overall costs to our transportation fund. The staff that's included in that fund from RCS are the bus aides and a percentage of the directorship, and that is the transportation director. That would be me. The other staff that's out there is financed by the student transit company. Second, insurance for our white buses that you see around for our special ed departments, for our schools, for our athletic departments. The fund also supports repairs to the white buses. And then the cost of the transportation fund includes the cost of the student transit services, which is the Sodrel company, which is what Mrs. Scalf is going to talk about in more detail here.
Okay, just as a review, we're going to go back through the circuit breaker information that we covered earlier in the year. This year, I decided that it might be well worth the effort to look back through the years. And our first full year with the student transit company was in 2009, which is why I decided to start there. So it's where our data became completely clean and everything reflects totals in whole for the year. So I started with the same data for circuit breaker, and you'll see in 2009 circuit breaker did not actually come into effect yet. So that's why there are zeros in that column. And you'll notice the trend down as you go down through the years. We have seen ups and downs. A lot of that is based on AV and other units information and tax rates. But you will notice there is a steady increase for the 14 year. I thought it would be good to take a look at the overall revenue in the transportation fund and compare it to what our circuit breaker looks like on a percentage basis. And what you'll notice is that in the past we have hovered somewhere between 9% and 11%, and this year we have actually spiked to around 22%. So that is what that blue line on the bottom that's creeping upward is reflecting. The red shows our collected tax, and you'll notice that same trend downward that meets that upward trend on circuit breaker. And then our levy, which is reflective of the state growth quotient in the transportation fund, and that is something that we cannot control. So we grow as the state grows, regardless of our surroundings. Our levy to revenue, I thought it would be beneficial to take a look at this because what we all know is that according to the contract that we currently have, the levy is what constitutes the amount that we pay each year. 100% of that goes to the student transit company, and you will notice that levy has increased throughout the years. You will notice some years go down, and those again are the growth quotients in the state, so we follow what the state tells us to do on that. The tax revenue are the actual collected dollars that we get each year from property and real, personal, both property taxes are reflected in that number. Those are also going to reflect that the circuit breakers are not collectible when you see those going down. The total revenue column, it constitutes your CVET, your excise tax, and your PTRC tax, which when added to the tax revenue, create our total revenue for the transportation fund. When we look at funding the contract, we have to look also at our uncollected dollars, and that is what that first column is going to show you, is the levy to the actual taxes that we've received throughout the years. The next column shows the levy or the contract amount to the total revenue in the transportation fund. And you will see that those other revenue areas have provided aid to the transportation fund costs throughout the years. You will also notice that in 2014, we do anticipate having to use the cash balance in the amount of $188,000. And my last slide is a basic synopsis of the contract that we have with Student Transit. The information on this screen is from 2009, our first year, and 2013 is our last full year. 2014, because we are still in process, those numbers change on a daily basis right now. So those are still running totals. Some basics in the contract are that the contract shows 180 student days, and double routes constitute 5 hours of service a day. Single routes are 4 hours of service a day, and a run, which is to you and I maybe a shuttle would be the language that we use, is an hour of service a day. So when we look at totals in 09, which shows the original contract layout, there were 35 double routes, then we had our preschool routes and special education routes. The total routes were 39 double and 6 single. Daily runs were set up to be around 11 a day on average, and the equivalent hours, which is the information that I use to reflect where we're really at on a yearly basis as far as usage. We have 28,000 hours in routes and about 1,980 in runs. So total hours per year in 09 were around 30,000, a little more than that. Some other basics in the contract is that we provide field trips to our buildings and summer school. We have a set number of runs that we can use up to that amount each year for summer school. In 13, you'll notice much of the same information. I did not have special education information at that time, but we did have 30 double and 18 single routes that year. Our total usage, though, you will notice, is drastically different than 09. So we actually used 41,940 hours of service that year. In 14, this is, as I say up there, a year-to-date average. And you'll notice we have 31 double routes right now. We have our preschool routes are a part of our special education number in there. So what that will leave is 9 remaining single routes. Those are a portion of the special education services that we provide. Runs per day, right now we are seeing 17 runs per day. Those, like I said, change daily. And then our total hours right now, if all things run basically even to what we're doing right now, we're going to see around 37,000 hours at the end of this year. So that is what the basics of our contract looks like. We wanted to give you guys some information as we move forward with discussions on the transportation.
Mrs. Scalf, in 2009, I'm looking at the preschool routes, and it had 3A, 3P, single routes. 2013 and up to date, we're doing 6A and 6A, 6P. What changed?
We opened preschools at all of our elementary buildings.
They were at Baxter for the...
So that's a change in service. We were now taking them out to the buildings instead of centrally locating them in one.
All right.
Are there any other questions? All right, thank you.
Well, I know that we're starting to, I know we're talking, or meeting with Sodrel, we're trying to see how we can get a handle on our cost, and now that we have this kind of data, we can start also putting some cost assigned to it. But have we drafted a letter or a guideline of what we need as a school system ourselves to be able to provide in services to meet the needs of our students, and provided a copy of that Sodrel to ask them what the cost of that would be? So, because my concern, I just want to make sure that when we go back to Sodrel, that we're going back to them and having them bid what we need to provide the services for our students. I don't want them to come to us and tell us what they can do. So.
Right. The conversation is going to have to go a bit in both directions. So the first thing that we have done is we've requested from Student Contract a listing of how much the costs are for each area of service they provide. And what that will do is show us how much each portion that we currently do costs, so that we can see when we break it down on what our needs are, what the costs are going to be associated with that. They are also going to help us with costs in scenario situations, so that when we bring discussions to you, we're able to price those out accordingly based on what the current amounts that it would actually cost to fund would be. So yes, we are doing that. We are going about it in a number of ways so that we can find what we need, what is efficient, what we can do to meet those funding issues also.
So when will that document be available to us as a board?
Well, we're both working on it. So as soon as it's available, I will get it to you. I do not have a date right now, but we are working as quickly as we can to get the information.
Well, my concern is I just want to make sure that we have plenty of time to react in case we have to, because I can see us having to do a policy review. I can see us having to look at a lot of different things, and we just want to make sure that we get enough out into the public. If we're going to have to make any kind of a modification or change into the transportation, that needs to take place fairly quickly.
So maybe we need a timeline. Maybe we could talk about that at the Finance Committee meeting so that we have an understanding of what our timeline might look like.
Right. I'm hoping as soon as we get those numbers worked together, that's going to help us tremendously in moving forward, and much quicker than where right now we're waiting to get that information, but it'll get us there.
I have a question about the preschool routes. So as far as our preschool transportation is concerned, only the students in our preschools that have an IEP, is that correct?
Correct.
Right, are offered bus service?
Correct.
And so is that coordinated with the special ed routes?
Yes, up there it is, in those numbers, but they're not coordinated in the same. Students of preschool age don't ride with older students. They're just preschool routes.
Their daily schedules.
And they're separate routes because their hours are different.
Oh, okay. Susie?
And I just wondered if, when you give us more information, we could have an understanding of the, how the transportation walking distance policy has been implemented, and whether there are students who are receiving some sort of exception for some reason, and we could take a look at that too.
Yeah, we can do that, because we're getting all that data right now, so we'll have all that. Again, this is an overview of the data, kind of preliminary data, but we know there's more conversation, deeper conversation that has to be had, some of those crucial conversations, if you will, not only for us, but for our community and our buildings, so, because the financials are different now, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next report and discussion is not mine.
Well, you were going to start us out, I believe,
Okay, I'll do that.
if you would.
All right. Well, as has been noted in the media and to our staff, I plan to be taking another position as of January, and that has created a need for the board to start strategizing a replacement plan. Now, I'm not so sure that that would entail a superintendent search between now and January, but you certainly need to be talking about that and how we would strategize that. So the board has had very limited conversation, and what we are talking about tonight is where we are in that limited conversation and where we hope to be in the next few weeks. But it also needs to be said that I will not be a part of those conversations other than facilitating them and making sure that the board has the materials, the resources they need to be able to conduct that. But they are being led through the process with an outside facilitator. The person working with them right now is from Indiana University. That may change, but at least at this point, she's the one who has helped them to get to where they are right now. There's been one meeting, one conversation, and I turn it over to you to talk about where we may go.
And basically, what she has done is just given us some information about how superintendent searches work, because some people on the board have had this experience before, but many of us have not. And you know, over time, things change. So the board has been given information concerning what a professional search firm would look like. And basically, a professional search firm is one that we would pay to help us set up the process and find the candidates. The board's been given information about the university search team, and that happens to be a free service offered by Indiana University, and we ask, why is it free? And we were told because this is a service that the universities feel that they can give back to communities, and so that is the reason that it is no cost. And then we have also found that Mr. Cross sent us some information that our Indiana State School Board Association, they also offer some services for a superintendent search, and so we have that information that we have had to peruse. And so what our the first thing that we need to do is to determine of which of these searches or firms that we feel would benefit us, benefit the community, and offer the services that we feel we need. And so I wanted to open it up for discussion among the board, and so that we can hopefully make a determination so that we can get moving. Dr. Borf is right. We do not expect to have a replacement by the time he leaves, January the 1st. More than likely, we will choose to have an interim. Don't know that yet, but that's probably more than likely what will happen. And not sure yet when we might have a superintendent. So, open for conversation as you have looked over the literature. Talk about what you're thinking. Susie.
After reviewing the information that we were given, comparing the kinds of services that professional search, these are companies, these are for-profit companies. After looking at the ones that were probably the top producers in our region, and comparing that with the university search team, I was a little, I must say I was more interested in the university search team for several reasons, but one of them, primary ones, was that none of these professional search teams are from Indiana. They don't have Indiana connections. Well, they may have Indiana connections somewhere, but they aren't obvious. And the university search team quite clearly has Indiana connections, and I felt like that was an advantage to us.
Could you expound on how they have Indiana connections? I mean,
My understanding is that there are 4 people on the team, and that they each come from various campuses in, I think they're all in the IU system, but perhaps there's one.
I think they come from like Purdue.
Ball State, Purdue, IU.
In Indiana.
Indiana State.
And Indiana State. So they have connections that would, they all know different people and from different parts of the state, and would be able to gather information about prospective candidates, at least from Indiana, pretty easily.
And I think many of them, if not all, have been former superintendents. And maybe within Indiana and maybe outside of Indiana, but they have been superintendents. And do you recall the cost associated with the firm that is?
The professional searches were in the tens of thousands of dollars, and I think what you do is you ask for like an RFP sort of, you ask for people to give you their best idea of what it would take, and a part of it is dependent, I believe, in how much support you want.
And that depends.
But $40,000, $60,000, and would be a good deal, I think. And the university search team does this would be doing it pro bono, so there wouldn't be, there might be the cost of mileage, but there isn't a lot of cost connected with it that I'm aware of. Of course, we're just discovering these details.
Exactly. Kelly?
And then the Indiana School Board Association, their search services, they also charge. Now, it's not anything like the professional search services, who could be upward $40,000-$50,000. But what my point was, between the professional and the university search services, even if there wasn't a cost involved, I felt like the university search services were more beneficial to us, because this is what they do, and they know the people in Indiana. They know who's currently out there looking, and the fact that they were all superintendents prior. I think they would be good. And I know that it was also suggested that maybe, it's just an idea, that maybe the ISBA superintendent search services and the university search services, we might work with both of them, and I don't know how that, it looks like they both pretty much have the same process, so I don't know if they've ever done that.
The nice thing about ISBA is that you can pick and choose. If you want to use one of their services, then you can use one of their services. Or if you want to use 10 of their services, you can use 10 of their services. So it's not like, yeah. So,
and it looks like they're using the same process as what university search services use. So I don't know how university would feel about doing both. I don't know. If
well,
that
I
would
was
fear.
I guess I was thinking as I read through the information, if there were some things that the university search team or the professional search team didn't cover, then we might want to check ISBA and hire them to do that particular thing. So, Aaron?
ISBA does still offer services that we can do with little or no cost at all. That's part of our membership as a board to ISBA, and they're responsible for doing that too. I mean, if it's nothing more than to do follow-up on, or maybe to glean from them perspective knowledge of superintendents who may be out there, who may be available. I really like the idea of the university because, it's already been stated, they are Indiana-based. They have firm knowledge of, of basically most of the school systems and school corporations around here, plus through the continuing services of those respective universities, they stay in contact with the superintendents, the associate superintendents, those who have their licensing already, or those who are working toward that already, and they're very familiar with the pool, as opposed to the professional search team who goes out there and they scan the country, and they promise us that they will get us somebody, but having no familiarity with what is available realistically, they will fulfill their role by simply getting us names and getting us candidates, as opposed to possibly getting the best fit for not only our school corporation but also our community, because we are not just trying to find someone to sit in the seat of the superintendent here, but somebody who's going to continue to be that bridge between public education and our community, RCS and our community. And that's going to be kind of difficult because the person who's already sitting in that has been such a vital cog and a vital and key person in our community for the last 10 years. So it's important that if we do go with the one, that they find the person to be the fit that is going to meet our needs.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Dixie has.
Oh, Dixie?
Well, I was pretty much going to say about the same thing, that I feel like the university-based research team would be better because they are knowledgeable about people, where the research firms are more knowledgeable about just resumes. And so I also feel like we should work with ISBA in some capacity. And it's nice that you can pick and choose those services. There's some on there that I do think we should take advantage of. So I do think it should be a partnership between the two.
Okay.
I think that I could see us having a blend. I like the idea of the university team because it's 4 colleges that's coming together, and it does cover. I mean, let's face it, there's 294 of these positions in the state. I mean, everybody in the state probably already knows this position is vacant, the way it goes through the Administrators Association and the school board. So, I mean, it's not, when you get to this level, people are looking for their next job. So I don't think we should limit it just to Indiana, and that's one of the things that I think that I liked about the ISBA is by picking and choosing, you could choose if you want to do a national search, and a national search, $600. I mean, come on, that's really a very, very fair fee, $600. Now, am I advocating that we go hire someone from Alaska? No, but we never know. So I think there's some pieces, and although I would have the confidence in a professional firm, I think we're kind of underselling them. I think, they're in a job to, they're making a living based on how well they do their job, and they have to do their job fairly well, or they're not going to be in business. Where my problem with them comes strictly is financial, because everything that I've read, you could spend anywhere from $35,000 to $100,000, and I don't think, why pay for a service that the universities are already putting together something for. I don't want to say completely free, because there are certain limitations on what they'll do, and that's where we'll have to supplement it with ISBA. So I think I think university with a supplement of ISBA.
Thanks. Suzanne?
We do have, even though I'm glad it's not like a long track record, we do have a track record with the folks from the university. That's what we did the last time we had a search, and it's been a while, but I remember that it went very smoothly, and they
10 years to be exact.
Yes, but they actually
in a few months.
Did
10 years and 3 months.
They took some of those unknowns out for us, and I thought that went very well. And some of the things that the big search firms promise, the university team is able to do that same, offer that same service. I would suggest, I think, that if we decide to go with the university team, though, that we let them sort of be the lead, and then what we say here, where there are gaps,
We can,
here's a menu that we might be able to do. Otherwise, I'm afraid we might have opposing forces, perhaps.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's the only
Makes
thing I
sense.
would say, that I think that use the tools. Obviously, we
Mhm.
pay for membership in ISBA, so I would suggest that if there are tools that we can take advantage of, we should do that. But I think they need to be the lead if that's what we decide to do.
So, Aaron, go ahead.
I was going to a point Jeff made, though. I assure you that the four-member search team from the university, they also have connections with superintendents who are outside of the state of Indiana as well. Again, going to the continuing services through their respective universities, they stay in contact and continue the monitoring of those who are from those universities who have served the state of Indiana, who may be in Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, or something.
But I think they said that was, I don't think a national search is part of their, I think that's an additional.
But they will reach out. If they're familiar with and the reason I'm thinking, you mentioned Alaska.
Yes.
There is a former superintendent, Indiana superintendent in Alaska right now. I've been in contact with them. And
He wants to come back
those
to the warm
alumni
weather.
are the people that our university officials would reach out to if they know that they're there.
So I think what I'm hearing is that it's consensus that we would like to go with the university firm or team, and then and utilize ISBA as needed. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Cross to help me here on protocol, whether we need to make a motion here to take action, or whether we need to wait and have a contract drawn up. What's our next step here?
I've not worked recently with the university, so I don't know what I think our protocol is whatever their protocol might
Yeah.
be. But I would be very surprised if there isn't at least some documentation of the relationship that probably needs to be reviewed by counsel for the schools, as well as we'll have input from the university group. And again, I'm not quite certain what information you already have available to you from the universities, if you will, so I can look at that. But I think tonight, if there's a consensus on the board that that's the direction they wish to go, then I think that I can work with the president, and we can make the contacts that need to be made to get the ball rolling. I don't think there's a whole lot to be gained by delay.
It seemed to me that it was just we need to make the phone call, and that's the information I thought we received, that if we were interested in working with them, we just needed to call them and then take the next
Perhaps
step.
give them my contact information, let me know from whom I might expect a contact. We
Okay.
get it going. I mean, that's not a problem.
Okay, so then we could more than likely, hopefully, bring the contract or whatever we,
Fairly quickly. I mean,
At the
I would
next
hope
board
at the
meeting.
next board meeting, and because I think then the decisions have to start being made. I mean, the notice of the vacancy, any type of brochure that you're going to put together, advertising the vacancy. There's just a lot of balloons that have to, that are in the air fairly quickly that need to come down.
right, and lay out the process so we can involve let our constituents know and our public know and so forth, so. Aaron?
I would like to make then a formal motion then, if we would, to go ahead and initiate the contact with the university search team in hopes of maybe tendering a contract with them to go ahead and begin our superintendent search.
Okay. And motion made by Aaron and seconded by Susie. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So, obviously, we are all learning a lot about superintendent searches. Probably more than we ever wanted to know. But we know that we have a lot of work ahead of us. And we know that there are things that need to be, that we can begin to orchestrate ourselves. For instance, maybe begin working on a brochure, maybe begin working on public forums, how we're going to go about doing that, and surveys to gather input about what people want to see in our next superintendent. We want to be communicators, obviously, and we want to be open and transparent throughout the entire process. That's what we're trying to do tonight. And we want to get off to a good start. So I would offer that we have some conversation. We're fortunate that we have a marketing team that I think will be a great asset as we go through this process. And so I open up conversation about those 3 areas and invite you to begin that conversation. Kelly.
Should we talk about a time frame? For instance, if we should decide to have an interim superintendent, then we're not in as big a push to hire a superintendent. Do we want the superintendent to start,
I think,
at the beginning of next school year? I mean, do we need to, probably need to discuss that?
The university team will help us set up that timeline as to how we're going to progress.
And will they help us to, if we would search for an interim superintendent, or is that something we would do on our own?
This is just me. I'm thinking we are responsible for the interim superintendent.
Well, let's meet with the.
You know, I guess that's something that we could ask, but.
So most of my questions, I pretty much need to ask the facilitator from the university.
From the university. Okay. Yeah, I think, does that make sense to everybody?
I think that's right. And to start answering some of your questions, I think that we should solicit as much input. I think we should go out to the staff, the community, and ask them what kind of qualities we want in our next sitting superintendent. I think we can do that. I think we could do that through surveys. We could do that through forums or.
Well, and I guess we need to specify the importance of getting this started, because before we can fully create a brochure to specify what we want in a superintendent, on that brochure we have to have the input, and so that's why having conversation about these things tonight is so important, so that not that we're going to do it all in December, but we need to begin thinking about how we go about doing this and get a plan. Susie?
One of the thoughts that I had was that if we used an electronic survey, which seems to me we need to be doing other things in addition to that, but it would seem to me that that would be a very a good interface with all kinds of people. Anyone who wanted to participate in it would be able to. That having that, to me, in my mind, that's one of the first things we should be working on in order to have that available when we do have these forums and do get an opportunity to listen to people. And I know that parents and key communicators, community members, students are all groups that, at least I'm sure you would agree with me, maybe you've thought of more, but
teachers.
Well, staff for sure, teachers and staff, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there are quite a few important groups that we need to be sure that we have access to seeking their input.
I think there's actually another group, the board itself. Think about how many different qualities a superintendent could have, strengths. You know, finance, technology, but transportation. I mean, there's so many, so we're going to have to kind of put together, what do
Right.
we see in the next 5 years as being the
Actually,
top?
we received, I think we all received that, how to do a superintendent search thing that was used by Washington State. There's one that's available from Indiana, from the ISBA. And when you combine those two tools, as I was reading them, there are some very good starting points for a survey in both of those, that it would be a matter that I felt good about, because it meant that by making sure we had something like that had been used successfully, we could make sure we didn't miss something important.
So, do I have volunteers to begin organizing and thinking through the surveys and the forums, and begin to organize that so that we can begin moving?
Well, I wanted to say one other thing about whether it be a forum. I really would like to see, instead of people meeting here, I would like to see town hall meetings in various parts of town, so that I think we would get better input, better attendance, because we want to make sure that we hear the voices of everyone, or as many as possible.
I think you're exactly right. I think that we should actually be going out to perhaps even events that are already scheduled at the different schools, at different events even in the community that have already been scheduled, that maybe perhaps we could be invited to piggyback a little bit onto some of those, so that we have the benefit of a wide range, a diverse group of people giving input.
Well, because right now there are just tons and tons and tons of questions. I'm sure you've all been kind of bombarded recently. People asking questions because they don't, it's been a long time since we've done a superintendent search. So there are lots of questions. We also have lots of new staff who have never gone through a superintendent search before. And I think it's important that whatever we do, that kind of on a weekly basis, that we're communicating with all RCS employees, so that they have a better comfort zone with what's taking place right now, and also some way be able to express that through the media, out to the community, the steps that we're taking and what we're doing.
Ron?
Just as a passing suggestion, I understand exactly what you're saying about reaching out to the people and going to the people, but you can't ignore the fact that you have access to the people through television, through these meetings.
Exactly.
You might consider taking your public commentary sections of your meetings and dividing them into maybe one part A, which is the qualities that the next superintendent should have, and then part B, other, and allowing that opportunity to be very intentionally addressed. And to facilitate that, the chair might consider appointing a board member for each meeting to at least discuss at the outset one quality that board member sees as being necessary in the next superintendent, and why, and then that can be arguably the stimulus for other public commentary that may or may not have even been planned prior to that board member's input. So that's just one thing. And we don't want to make it an hour-long presentation,
Right,
unless the first one or two might be that, if they're that productive. But it does show on an ongoing basis that this is an issue that the board wants out in front of the public. And, I mean, you can't ignore this opportunity.
And it goes back to leveraging the opportunity you already have versus creating hundreds of extra meetings too.
So that could actually go under the communication part of organizing those kinds of things. So, Aaron.
I would also like to utilize Dr. Borf himself to this extent. The public input, he has been so involved with this, with our community, to gain from you, Dr. Vorf, some of those business and community contacts that you have, so we can have conversation with them as well to hear, okay, this is how he has worked with us. This is what has worked with his cooperation, and this is what we see is going to be key in your next superintendent from their perspective, whether it be the hospital, whether it be the chamber, whether it be any other organization that he's worked with. Not to say that he's going to guide us through that, because no, he's not going to, but to glean from him those existing contacts so we can hear from them, see what has worked and what they feel is going to be important to continue that working relationship.
Great.
That prompts me to wonder if we couldn't ask some of the boards that I'm on to have their own conversation with a board member. For example, you might be invited to a chamber board meeting where they talk to you about what they would like to see in the next superintendent, or the Boys and Girls Club, or I could facilitate that, make that happen.
Right.
I think we
Susan, go ahead.
I think we also, in the past, brought some of those groups together in a room too. So maybe the chamber and the economic vitality group, like you said, maybe there's a common time to pull them together.
Okay.
Even if it's not everyone. So I'd be happy to help with some of that. And then the brochure piece.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to.
The marketing committee doesn't know I volunteered them for this, but there are some good minds that could get together and at least kind of think about what it might look like, and then as the details become apparent, then we could kind of fill in the blanks. So
Okay.
I
So I hear you're saying that you would take on the brochure.
Right. And I can even help
you
with
would
some
also
of the
like, okay, so do I have people that would like to do the forums, the surveys, get that all organized? And, okay, Susie?
I'll fill out the forums.
Aaron? Anybody else?
I'll help out.
Kelly? Okay, thank you. And we need the communication piece.
The letter writer?
Oh. Well, well, Dixie, would you be willing to take care of that communication piece and organize what Ron was talking about and whatever else you can create and come up with so that we are and have good communication with our media people and
Well, and I think the other thing too, but if we get the contacts from Dr. Borf, that invitations need to be sent to come to the meetings to participate. Maybe personal invitations.
Yes, that
So-
communicator
I'll
list,
just fill
which
in
would
along the
cover,
way.
I would think,
And
most of
Jeff's
that.
going to fill in along the way. And Jeff is
the books on the shelf.
our resident finance expert and so on. So, well, you know, obviously, all of us are going to be helping each other, I think, through this. So, anyway, I think that obviously we have a good start here, and we're going to be off and running. So, Mr. Cross, is there anything that I have left out that we should
I think that's
focus
the
on?
focus. I mean, my memo to you, with all its typos, it was not heard, sets out the general legal parameters, and experience has been that you go beyond those and you try to make the process as transparent as you can, recognizing that in almost any search, but particularly in one that you'll be conducting at this time of year, a good number of the people who would be interested and respond are currently engaged, and so it just needs to be understood, and a consensus needs to be reached at the board level that the identity of those candidates will be kept confidential, at least until there's been the narrowing, if you will, the proverbial short list has been established, and then the board can consider the possibility of what kind of interview process it wishes to engage. I think Dr. Borf can speak to his experience. I've observed others, you know, and at that point, then usually the release of the identity is less of an issue with the candidate than it is at the outset when there's no idea how big a pool that the applicant pool might consist of.
Okay, thank you.
and being very discreet during this process in protecting the identity of those potential candidates, because what is very key for them right now is the continuation of their relationship with their board, their respective boards, and their administrations where they are, because from experience, if you by chance, that expression, loose lips sink ships, if you have somebody who's interested and we start to share that information outside of each other, and that very quickly gets back to that community, that may be the death knell for that, not only that superintendent, but also his or her relationship with their board.
Mhm.
And it may draw them back.
Not quite like hiring a basketball coach. Planted rumors happen in that scenario.
Well, I think we want to keep the process open and keep our people informed, and that's as soon as we get the information and as soon as we understand what the process is, we plan to let everybody know. So we're learning right along. So obviously, Susie.
On the subject of an interim superintendent, that's been kind of keeping me awake at night. And because I would anticipate that if we do this process properly, we would be needing someone's services for potentially 6 months. And because I believe most contracts begin in July 1 around the state, and so I just, timing-wise, it would be odd, I think, that someone would join us much before that. I would like us, and I'm just planting, I'm doing my Johnny Appleseed role here, I'm planting seeds. As I've thought about this, I think that we would benefit from an interim superintendent who has had some previous positive connection to RCS and to Richmond. And we wouldn't, and it would benefit us also because there'd already be some prior knowledge that this person would bring to that position. I also did ask the question whether or not this person needed to be a licensed superintendent, and I believe the answer was that there were ways of getting temporary superintendent licenses. Once they were hired, they would need to have at least that much.
Right, and I think we need to defer to Mr. Cross at some point on that particular issue. Maybe not tonight. I don't know that you're prepared, but...
No, I think, I know that in the past there may be accreditation issues, but on an interim basis, Dr. Boer's probably more of a resource on that issue than anyone else. But on a temporary basis, I'm not sure that there's that rigidity in the requirement. I don't know.
You wouldn't have to be that rigid. You have in Mr. Millis certification that would be necessary from time to time, and to represent the corporation. I don't disagree that someone with prior knowledge of the district would be probably beneficial, but don't rule out people from other communities who might be interested, who could be very good. Okay. We've been contacted by a couple, and I'm going to pass those names along.
The other thought that I had was that we have a pretty well-oiled machine working for us right now. And I worry that if we were to call upon someone from within our system, that might create a sort of miniature cascade of needing to move people to fill in for responsibilities that might end up, depending on where we went, to whom we went, that might be, that could potentially be fairly disruptive at a time when some continuity is important. Mm-hmm. And on the subject of continuity, I wanted to bring up that I thought that it might be healthy for us traditionally, I believe we reorganized the board in January. And I wanted to put out there again, I'm planting seeds, that perhaps we consider waiting until after we've completed this search process to do any reorganization of the board, just because doing it as we are.
I think we
I
have
think
to.
we're bound by law.
Are we?
It's
By
in
the
the
first
it's in the
meeting in
statute. Now, you
January.
could, what does reorganize mean? You can confirm the existing organization. That's certainly a legitimate activity.
But is there anything that keeps us from reorganizing ourselves at other times of the year?
That's a good question. I haven't looked at that.
I thought you had to reorganize organize by
Well,
the first meeting in January.
Do that, and then if you decide.
We
you want
could
it,
organize ourselves the first meeting in January and then choose to reorganize ourselves again the 1st of July.
Okay.
Perhaps. I don't know. That's
Well,
the question.
I guess the question is, what do you mean by organize or reorganize? If you're simply talking about election of board officers and appointments to committees and standing committees, well, I'll just take a look and see if that's what the board is really saying. I mean,
Yes.
We do have so much going on, though. I mean, I really feel continuity right now, as I felt a couple years ago when we were in the middle of trying to figure out if we needed to close schools at this time of year. I think right now, I just feel like the continuity and structure is important with the current. And I assume you're talking about like the executive committee of the board, president, vice president.
Right. That and other responsibilities the board members take on, other duties.
Well, I think that is something that can certainly be an ongoing conversation. And obviously, we can't make that decision right now.
Oh, no, but I just, like I said, I'm doing my Johnny Appleseed thing.
What do you feel is the purpose of doing that?
Of doing the John.
Of reorganizing again in July? What would be the purpose for that?
Well, it would, by delaying reorganization until July, we would guarantee continuity through the first of the year and through the superintendent search, which is, I think, really important.
I think if I remember correctly, it specifies exactly when we have to have the reorganization done. I think it's Indiana code.
It does. It does.
January.
Right down to the officers and then the policies. I don't know that it addresses subsequent reorganization. That's what you're going to research, Ron?
Okay.
I guess I'm just thinking about what Susie's talking about. I guess I could make the argument that the continuity would not only be during the process, but also the next 6 months after. Let's assume that we got someone hired to take place July 1st. I guess I would argue that continuity between the new sitting superintendent and the board president should continue on through that. I mean, it's not just in the beginning, it's also.
I would hope that by the time we would hire someone and the board will be involved in the process, that whoever the new superintendent would be comfortable with whoever was sitting in the chair. If not, then that's a different problem.
Well, at this point, we just mostly need to get moving on the superintendent search, and we kind of think about that in the back. Like you said, keep the seeds so that we can
And we're lucky
move
that
forward on that.
we don't have any, I shouldn't put it that way, but our board will stay the same at the beginning of the year rather than having new board members come on, and because that's such a learning curve.
Thank the voters for that continuity.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, we've got
Appreciate
that
that.
going. So we're all used to working with
They didn't fire 3 of us.
And that's going to be, that actually is going to be, that's going to be an attractive strength for any candidate that is looking, who may become interested in this, and that'll be the fact that it'll be a veteran board that he or she is going to become, employed by, and going back to the question of continuity or the continuation of officers through reorganization. I think that the new superintendent would also feel comfortable with knowing that when he or she got here, hopefully in July, that they will have the experience of the same board president or officers who led the search or were part of that, who they can also go back to and have the conversation with what has happened over the last year or two, that he or she, as board president, can bring to that conversation, as opposed to somebody who may be new as board president, who may not have been part of the previous efforts.
I guess, I'm just one comment that if there's a need to, whatever reorganization is needed, I say just do it in January and let it be. I mean, I don't see the benefit of perhaps changing in January or not changing in January and then changing in July, because there is so much that is important in what we are going to be doing that to kind of move things around might be kind of tough in July. And so, I say that if we need to restructure how we are aligned right now, then we can do it in January. But that's just my opinion. So
Can I
let's
ask
just
a question about the process? We talked about surveys and things. Is our thought at this point to maybe go out with surveys during this chopped up holiday season, maybe doing the surveys at that point in time, and then maybe going to the
I think that is
town meetings after the first of the year?
up to the people that want to organize that part, and then to maybe, bring it back to us and let us know what.
Make a recommendation.
Does that make sense?
Well,
that-
keep in
It
mind,
does.
we
I
only
just was
have
trying
one
to
board
think-
meeting, too, in December.
That's what I was. My head was started to get wrapped around.
We're all
the
problem
time.
solvers, and we
Well,
want everything solved right now.
No,
And
not so.
I'm
I'm
that
just
way.
kind of looking to see if that's where
Yeah.
people were, if that's what people were thinking, because I see a lot
Well,
of stuff.
Well, one of the things I think it's important is that the community know and understand that we are moving forward, and one of the things that we will need to be doing right off the bat is seeking their input.
Right.
Both the RCS community and the greater Richmond community. And so people, as they are having those moments of time to reflect, need to be reflecting on this, recognizing that their input is going to be critical and to this process.
Well, surveys, maybe if you extended like a deadline date for them, but it could go out so that when people have time through the holiday season or after, that they can at least we can start with the surveys. I think the town hall meetings or the forums here at board meetings, whatever we're going to do, that those will probably have to take place in
After the first of the year.
January.
That's kind of what I was asking.
Because we only have one board meeting left.
I know.
And
Or Misty, were you, when we were looking at which schools to close and all, we did something on the website, didn't we, where the
We have all
public could
kind
actually.
of opportunities
There's
for
an
people
open.
to share.
Right, right.
It's
But
open.
we got a lot of feedback on that, where people could go to the website, and we could just ask, the simple question, what qualities do you feel are important in a superintendent? And I think you would get a lot of people who, I could sit down and write that out, but I don't have time to go to a meeting. Now, the meetings are important also, but I thought that was a valuable tool before.
Well, and we might get information from the survey that then we could present at these forums to see whether the people who were there wanted, agreed, disagreed, thought differently, or,
One very important forum coming up is December the 8th. I think it's December 8th. That's our parent group that that we meet with on is
I
that
think
December?
I think it's the 3rd.
December 3rd.
Oh, wow.
I think it's a week from this coming Wednesday. Is that the
The
third?
third?
The first.
Okay.
The first.
So that might be a place where we want to seek input on that, with that group of people.
And we're notifying them that that's a primary agenda item.
Okay? So,
Mr. Millis will be here for that. I'm going to be at the courthouse that night, so he will be here. And normally, we have a couple board members there, so it's a great opportunity for that first group of parents to come together and talk about such things.
and we could maybe work on getting a pretty good crowd that night.
Who is it that has the survey? I mean, I'm sure RCS has a survey.
Bridget Hazelbaker
Bridget is the
normally
person
puts
who-
that together along with,
Right.
with Misty.
Okay. So we would want to work with Bridget on putting that together.
Give me time to let her know in the morning that's coming.
Well, there won't be anything.
I'll text her right after the-
There won't be anything by tomorrow morning.
That would still go
Okay.
through marketing.
Okay, anything else on this topic? Other than I just want to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Boer for helping us through this process. It's, I'm sure, difficult for him and maybe sometimes kind of awkward, but he seems to do it with such grace and easy stride. And so I just want to say thank you for
You're
helping us replace you.
Are you still here?
No, but thank you very
I
much
appreciate the comment.
for your graciousness, because I'm sure it's,
And there is a way you could make this all easier for us.
It's been, okay.
okay. We're ready for our action items.
First action item tonight is the receipt of donations, and we turn to Mrs. Scow for that presentation.
Evening. Tonight we have numerous donations from the high school, and you will see those on the screen. They are also posted to the web. But we want to thank Nadim Rashid for a donation to a life skills class at the high school for a field trip. And then we have numerous donations for the RHS Bowling Club, and those are from Jeffrey and Shelley Culbertson, Hills Pet Nutrition, Mancino's, Smire Construction, House of Doors, Inc., Early Wine Pest Control, Homeland Distribution, Hager's Auto and Truck Service, Inc., Top of the Head, State Line Medical Equipment. And then we had 2 donations to the Boys and Girls Swim and Diving Team, and those were from Michael Perez and Stephen and Teresa Turner. We thank all of our donors for a total of $1,056.70 for this month's donations. And I ask that you accept these donations.
Motion made by Aaron Stevens, seconded by Dick C. Robinson. Comments or questions? Other than thank you, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Our next item is the acceptance of the e-learning grant. I think it's a testimony to the quality of the programming that we've seen put on by our tech department. I'll let Mr. Tidrow make this proposal.
Thank you. Over the last few board meetings, board retreats, we've talked about our pathway to digital conversion. And one of the key components, if not the key component, is professional development to our staff and to our teachers. And the Department of Education has put on summer conferences, regional conferences across the state the last 3 years, and we've been part of that. We were accepted, we've been awarded the upcoming one for the 2015 summer. And this will be a 2-day event. We'll have a keynote speaker on each day. If you remember, the last 3 years we've had Will Richardson, Alan November, and George Kuros. These are leading experts in educational technology. A couple names that I have investigated this year is Angela Myers and Kevin Honeycutt. These are big names in the industry. I'd love to get them here. We're also going to team up with another county school, Western Wayne, which is in the Cambridge City area, to help us put on this event. We plan to do it here again, of course, in the high school, and have them help us not only lead the charge, but also maybe get some more people in here from that area. So we're proud to do that. So The grant is in the amount of $17,000, and we're one of 23 districts to receive the grant. And as a recommendation, I ask the board to accept the e-learning grant in the amount of $17,000.
Motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions? Thanks, Rob, for all of your organizing of this.
Great.
And your team, I'm sure.
Well, this year we have the addition of the 2 e-learning specialists that will help in a lot of that organization.
I'm sure that will be.
Time-consuming task, so we enjoy doing it. Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Our next item is the acceptance of MAC grants. These generally are classroom supplies, and this one is no different. I'll let Mrs. Scalf make this presentation.
This month, we have 2 teachers that were awarded MAC grants, and those were Laura Arndt of Fairview and Tina Michaels at Test, and their classrooms will receive, respectively, $490.48 for supplies and $499.75 for projects to be done in their classroom, and I ask that you accept these MAC grants.
Okay, motion made by Suzanne Dergowski, seconded by Aaron. Comments or questions? Wow, that's great. Anytime you can get money for your classroom, that's awesome.
It's an excellent opportunity.
Appreciate them taking the time, too, because I know those do take some time. to
Well,
do.
you notice right down to the penny.
Yeah, I noticed
They
that,
have these
too.
specified.
Yes.
Very specific.
It is a very specific, it's not just it's not just like reams of paper. It's generally supplies dedicated to a particular focus area, project.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
The next item is compensation for administration and non-certified staff, and this balances the collective bargaining agreement. The collective bargaining agreement pertained only to our bargaining unit members or teachers and such. This compensation package is for administration and the non-certified staff, in other words, everyone else. And it comes in the form of a recommendation for the administration and exempt employees, and that would be a 1%. If you remember, the teachers at one end of the scale were pretty much a 1%, and then the teachers at the other end turned out to be about a 1.8. So in keeping with that model, we have the exempt employees, administration and so on, being recommended for a 1%, and then the hourly employees would be a 1.8%. And that would be effective.
Probably the second pay in December would be the earliest that will come into effect.
Is that probably, or is,
That is
what
definitely-
percent
we are
probably?
already halfway through for next week's payroll, so I would say it's definitely.
Okay.
Not next week, is what you're saying.
Right.
I gotcha.
I just didn't want a lot of emails asking me
Second pay.
when that might happen.
And does this,
Yep.
do the numbers that we see here, these are either the hourly or daily rate, so would this be retroactive to, with the teachers,
Not all can be retroactive. Would you like to explain that?
Well, that is a choice. In the past, the hourly staff that are not on contract, we have just started the new salary schedule based on a date in the pay period in which it would be effective that next pay day. So that is how we have worked hourly rates in the recent past. Contractual staff have been retroed in the past. So those would be retroed back to the start of their contract, whatever date that was. For some, it's July 1, some it's middle of July, some it's the start of the school year. It's all dependent on their type of contract. So that is where we have been in the past. And that is my recommendation for moving forward.
Okay. Comment or a motion, please. Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments or questions? Jeff?
I was kind of overwhelmed. I never really dove in
Think about all the different groups.
into all the different groups, and I guess I would like to put, what the term you used was Johnny Appleseed? Is that right?
Planting seeds.
I think next year that we ought to spend some time really revamping this, going over it. It's a lot more complex than I think it needs to be. We could make it a lot more simpler. And I think one of the things that would help us, or I know it would help me, I can't speak for your other 6 board members, but I get confused in the terms, contractual, hourly, not, I think understanding it all, I think would help us, but definitely, I think we need to spend some time, and whether that's a task for a committee, finance committee, new superintendent, whatever.
New HR director.
Well, see, I can say that now that you announced your retirement, right?
Yeah.
Or the interim HR director. No.
Do we need to
But I guess I say it kind of jokingly, but at the same time, I think this is some area that we ought to really take a look at in the near future. So,
Now would be the time to begin that process.
so
HR director.
Right there.
Point well taken, I think.
okay.
But I would like to say to those employees, we value the work that you do and appreciate all the work that you do. And it's not as much as we would like to have given, but it's as much as we were able to give. So with that said, anybody else have a comment? Then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public commentary. Kelly, do you want to talk again?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, we are ready to preview. Oh, well, do we have any board reports or old business?
Well,
Mr. Cross, oh, I'm sorry.
I'll be distributing a memorandum on the legal issues that are implicated by the fair market value sale of the Garrison property.
Oh, great.
And then with that, you'll see the timeline that I am just throwing out as probable or feasible. And that allows us then to dovetail the other 2 parallel processes for requesting requests for proposals as to demolition of the building and alternate building and parking lot, as well as the RFP for removal of the cabin to a designated location. So take a look at that. If you have any questions, I've given Kieran sufficient copies, and each board member can have a hard copy of it.
Okay.
Boy, we kind of switched our gear. You know, we were talking about Garrison Highland Heights at the last meeting, and now we're looking for a new superintendent. We've got to remember not to forget
Right.
everything we have going on.
Exactly. Thank you, Kelly. That's right. And thank you, Ron, for doing that. So Karen is going to distribute those hard copies.
Yeah, I think you got emails, but we've got trees have died.
Okay, great. Any other?
I have 2 questions.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Or
Jeff.
actually, one question and one. Can we have an update on the pool over at Hibbard? You said you were going to look at some things and see when. Have you started the mothball process on it, or?
They are still using it as a educational facility right now. We're trying to get it through this week. Tomorrow, I guess, will be the last day, and then we're working with Test. They're currently sending their 5th graders over there, so after the break, working with transportation to get them over here to the Tiana pool, as well as the Hibbard swimmers, so.
So you're looking at January 1st, or?
Well, we're looking probably the next 2 weeks to get them over to the high school. That way we can close down the Hibbard pool. So. But I'll have an update the next board meeting by announcing that we have mothballed it or started that process. So. Thank you.
And I just want to also remind everybody that the finance meeting is the 2nd Tuesday of next month. So if you got questions or thoughts that need to get that to me, so I can get with Karen and we can put the agenda
Or if you want to attend.
So,
Yeah.
But at least,
Thank you.
at least get the information to me. So.
Yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. Anything else on that part? We're ready to preview our upcoming meeting.
The following items will be discussed at the December 10th board meeting. That one would be the presentation of the holiday card winners. We have the winning card printed. It's ready to go, but it will be formally presented at that meeting. Garrison updates, as we've talked about. Review of the CPAS data. We have concluded our CPAS meetings, and we will present that data at the next meeting. And then we also have policy discussions. We have 2 policies that we are presenting. Well, actually, we have all the 7,000s that are just about to be wrapped up, and next week I think we'll probably be able to do that. But we have another couple policies that are not related to the 7,000s that we'll probably be bringing for a possible first reading. So that, and then the Hibbert update, as we've just gone over, will be items brought at the next board meeting.
Great, thank you. Also, referring to the policies, we received policies at our place tonight, and one of the policies is the bullying policy, and we had not, that was adopted in 2013, but we had not, it had not been processed yet, and so now it's been processed, and we each have a hard copy of it. So that's what's at your place tonight. Press conference? Any questions? We welcome Louise Ronald. She is the new Education person.
And Family Life is my title.
Okay, well, welcome, Louise.
And I know many of you from past community involvement. I do have experience in schools. I was a middle school and high school English conversation teacher in Tokyo for about 8 years. And I've also tutored reading and worked with kids with learning differences. So I have a real level of comfort. I went to Fairview this morning and I met with the Spirit Club, and there'll be a story in tomorrow's paper about their food drive. And I felt very comfortable. The teachers had to leave in a hurry. I stayed with the kids. That doesn't thrill me, but figuring out these taxes does. So Mr. Tidrow walked me, and Mrs. Scalf helped me a lot this afternoon to understand what's going on. But please bear with me when I ask a lot of questions. And I have one question. What is the formal name of this university team that you have been referring to?
It's called the University Search Team.
And it's from Indiana University?
I think that's where it originated.
I see.
That's where it is coordinated from.
Okay.
But it represents 4 universities.
Right.
Yeah. And that was
and we will
Purdue, IU, Ball
Indiana
State,
State.
and Indiana State.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
That was short and sweet.
Well, we must have been pretty thorough then, if that's the only question you have. Okay, anything else for the good of the cause? Oh,
I have a bell ringer.
We got to have our bell ringer.
My bell ringer tonight is Braden Coates. Story of Braden Coates. He's a student over at Test, and he's doing some work right now in Mr. Erb's coding club that just a few years ago would have been science fiction. He has created an app where if you go in and access this app, you have access to everything that happens on the Test intermediate calendar. So it's mainly available for all the parents and students over at Test, but he has created this app in his coding club. This is something that high school courses are just now being developed for. College courses have been developed for coding, but we have an intermediate student. Does anyone remember what grade he's in?
He's in 8.
I think he's 8th grade.
8th grade. An 8th grader
Tell
doing
us
that
his
kind
name
of.
again.
Braden, B-R-A-E-D-O-N, Coates, C-O-A-T-E-S. He is at Test and is creating his own apps.
We'll be coding.
We are adjourned.